Well, hello, and thank you for joining me for another Alex on Tech and IT Wired TV interview. Today I'm joined by Luke Todd. He's the CEO of EV Direct and the chairman of BYD Automotive. Welcome to the program.
Thank you, Alex, for having me. It's a great pleasure.
Yeah, thank you for being here. Now, before we go any further, EV Direct is responsible for bringing the range of BYD cars into Australia. So, what's the short version of the BYD story and your involvement?
So, for those that are unaware of BYD, BYD has actually been in Australia for 10 years now. The relationship that I've had with BYD and BYD's first foray into Australia commenced back in 2013 and started off with electric buses coming to Australia. I used to have a business operating buses around many airports across Australia, and we had a need to transition from diesel buses to something a little bit more pollutant friendly, and that's when we started to develop our first electric buses. And we stumbled across this wonderful company called BYD, who, unbeknownst to us at the time, was transitioning a whole range of buses and passenger vehicles in China from ICE vehicles to electric. And that was the basis of our relationship. And we've just grown from strength to strength over the last 10 years.
Yeah, and of course, for those, I mean, most people watching probably know, but I stands for internal combustion engine, which is the technology that electric is replacing, and BYD stands for Build Your Dreams. So you've been building your dream alongside the BYD empire. I mean, to learn that it's been 10 years in Australia, it's a bit like Zoom. Zoom's over a decade old. A lot of people thought that Zoom was something that came during the pandemic, but just like Zoom, you've been around for a long time. So how did you discover BYD?
The BYD, the story is actually far deeper than that. BYD itself as a company has been operating close to 30 years, and they're actually a battery company at the core of what they do. So going back many decades, the transition in your mobile phone from being the old brick phones that most of us would remember to what we now see in a smartphone, a lot of that battery technology and the smarts was actually driven by BYD. Roughly 1 in 4 mobile phones around the world at the moment actually have a BYD battery inside the phone. So BYD as a company has been around for many decades, producing high quality technology, and then they transitioned into automotive, as I mentioned before, starting with buses, and now they're the world's leading electric and new energy car company in the world.
Now we can see that you're in one of the BYD vehicles with that beautiful moon roof. I think they call those sort of incredible roofs.
Yeah.
My cousin has a Tesla in Hong Kong. He had to buy a special thing that you put onto the top to cover it because it got a bit too warm inside. But it's just one of those things. I mean, there's so many accessories you can buy for your car, not just your phone these days.
Just on that, so one of the things that's a really strong feature of BYD and the products that we're bringing to the market, and you talk about the moonroof, but the vehicles that we provide, this has a sunroof and a moonroof, and the technology inside the BYD vehicles is extremely advanced, and it all comes included with the price. So there's no added extras, added options, upselling. What we've done is we've been able to bring a high quality product. And I'll just give you one example. I'll just close the blind here, for example. This is all voice
Sure.
recognition. It's actually not letting me do it because I'm on Zoom with yourself. But
Yeah.
if I wished to, I could actually close the blind. So there we go. That was a bit of a fail. But
But can you do it manually on the on
normally,
the on the screen?
oh yeah, I can just do it manually.
Sure, because I mean the
If I close
viewers will
it here,
understand
but
that.
normally
Yeah, you're on the car entertainment system with the sounds coming through, so that's
I,
cool. We can understand that.
I'm on I'm on the car entertainment system. But normally I would have the opportunity to say, "Hi BYD, close the blind," and it would
Mm.
recognise my voice. Or I have one button here on the steering wheel that I can press and close the blind. But as you can see, so it's a moonroof. But that issue that you mentioned about the temperature control, this is actually a normal sunroof with the ability to close the blind and monitor the control. And we've just also released the BYD app, and that controls the air conditioning. And one of the wonderful features that I love about the app is when you're approaching a car, or if you know you're hopping in your car in about 5 minutes, you can actually go onto your app and set the air conditioning to have the vehicle climate controlled. So when you get into your car, it's already cool or warm, depending on what you're seeking to achieve. So the technology in our vehicles is extremely advanced. It's actually a combination really of automotive excellence combined with high quality technology and the two worlds colliding.
Yeah, I still remember when Back to the Future 2 saw Marty McFly go back into the 1950s, and he saw something on the car, the dock, and he said, I know why that's no good. It's because it's from Taiwan, or Japan. I think it was Japan. I can't remember now. But it used to be the case, in the 1950s, that Japanese technology was, after the war, it was terrible. But of course, it became the height of technology. And at the time, Marty McFly said, well, it's clearly improved. And I remember when Taiwanese stuff used to be rubbish, and then that got so much better. And Chinese stuff originally, also wasn't as good, and South Korean. But all of these different technological centers have just massively jumped in performance and quality, and we see that today. I mean, we still see cheap stuff made all over the world, but clearly that's not the case with BYD or a lot of the other Chinese tech we take for granted.
You're spot on there, Alex. So the technology inside electric vehicles, and there's a massive transition towards electric vehicles, which most of your viewers, I'm sure, would have either heard about or seen or picked up on. Electric vehicles, one thing to be for everyone to be aware, really the best technology anywhere found in the world at the moment is coming out of southern China. So places like Shenzhen, Shanghai. So BYD, being Shenzhen based, is in the epicenter, the equivalent to, I guess, Silicon Valley a decade or so ago, where all the best technology was coming out of Silicon Valley in America. All of the best EV products are coming out of China at the moment, especially southern China. So even the Teslas, one of our competing vehicles, which we have a great level of respect for, the Teslas that are coming to Australia are actually produced in China as well, in southern China. So everything that you're seeing happen in Australia, I think your listeners, your viewers can take a lot of confidence that the best technology is coming to Australia. Germany as a country over many decades was fantastic at building highly complex internal combustion engine vehicles. But the new technology being electric, if you want the best, it's coming out of China. So we're very, very proud about where the vehicles are coming from, and very proud that it's the best technology that you can find anywhere on the globe.
Yeah, in the 2 or 3 years before Trump banned Huawei from being able to use Google Play in their phones in the West, Huawei would have a Seeds for the Future program running in China. They'd be bringing university students from around the world to sort of, earn their ability to go. And so I've been to Shenzhen a few times, and I mean it's just enormous. I remember, you know the stories about how it was a fishing village, and now it's one of the most technologically advanced places in the world. And it even despite COVID and all the rest, it just continues powering ahead.
Well, you're spot on, and I'm glad you've been to Shenzhen, because that is the epicenter of high quality EVs. And as you mentioned, yes, correct. Roughly 30 years ago, it was a fishing village, and then it became one of the 4 activation zones for China, where they invested a huge amount of money to create high quality technology based products. And in the span of 30 years, it's moved from a fishing village to what is probably the most high tech, advanced, populous city anywhere in the globe.
Yeah, most people in the world would be using some technology from Shenzhen. That's how sort of seminal it is. And if people don't know that, they should. The world might be having China and the rest of the world might be having some sort of fights, but we rely on China more than we could possibly know, and they of course rely upon a lot of the raw materials from Australia and the rest of the world. I just wish we went back to a bit more harmony.
Just on that, because it is a good topic, and something that I do enjoy talking about. The state of New South Wales, where we're headquartered, and the Guangdong province, which is where Shenzhen is, those two localities have had a very strong history of trade, of partnership and friendship over many, many decades. I was privileged to speak at a joint enterprise event late last year between New South Wales, and we had the New South Wales governor and the head of the Guangdong province talking about the wonderful relationship between those two, the province of Guangdong and New South Wales. And I think people, once they scratch the surface and do a little bit of research into that relationship, they'll find that there's been a really strong trade and friendship relationship for many decades that is totally different to a lot of the rhetoric that we hear. And all we can emphasize is that the quality of our vehicles is coming from the best place anywhere in the world, and the relationship between the two locations and companies is extremely strong, and will just get stronger in the coming years and decades.
Yeah. Well, both my parents were made in China, and my mother's half Russian, half Chinese. So I'm one quarter Chinese. My father's Russian genes, of which there's Polish and Austrian in them, were clearly a lot stronger than the Chinese side of my family. Otherwise, I'd look more Chinese. Rather, people say, "Oh, I can see from your cheekbones" or something. I say, "What? The curly hair and the green eyes gives the Chinese away." We have a laugh, but yeah, I always like to think
Very
the best of
funny.
the East and the West, and I mean, again, more harmony in the world wouldn't go astray, especially in these amazing times that we live in. Now, tonight, as we're recording, it'll be obviously different when people are watching this, but you're having a huge gala event at the BYD Experience Centre at 50 Riley Street, Darlinghurst. I've been there. I recommend people go and have a look. Incredible cars on display. So tell us about this event, which I also know is partly to celebrate the fact that you've done a deal with Sixt, the automotive rental company, to have 500 BYD cars added to their fleet. So you're going to have a huge number of celebrities and top artists. And tell us about the event and tell us about the relationship with Sixt.
Yeah, so both the event and the relationship with Sixt we're extremely excited about. Just to cover off the relationship with Sixt, we first started talking to Sixt probably about a year ago, and they came to us with some really ambitious targets of what they wanted to achieve as far as transition from traditional petrol vehicles across to electric vehicles. We were fortunate in the fact that we were one of the only companies in Australia that was able to supply the high volume that they're intending to put into their fleet. They've made a commitment of roughly half their fleet to be electric or new energy vehicles by roughly 2025. So tonight's a celebration of the event. We've had a commitment both ways between Sixt and us, EV Direct and BYD, to deliver 500 electric cars into the rental fleet of Sixt this calendar year, and that is set to grow to a significantly higher number in the coming years beyond that. So it's a celebration of the relationship with Sixt, and it's also a celebration of the largest electric fleet deal, if you wish to call it that, in Australia's history. So it's a wonderful event, something that we're extremely proud to be a part of, and I think it's a sign of things to come, and looking forward to a great night.
Yeah. Well, you have lower maintenance costs. I was reading in the press release that you won't have to fill your car up with fuel or electricity, that Sixt will do that for you. So that'll actually make the whole process smoother and cheaper. But just in brief, and I'll have some of the details in the article that accompanies this press release. But who are some of the celebrities? And you've got a musician there. I forget his name now, but it looked amazing. If I was in Sydney tonight, I would be there. Sadly, I'm in Canberra, and so we're having this discussion like this instead. Yeah.
Would love to have you, but it's also tonight is also a bit of a secondary announcement of BYD growing our family, and we have some new ambassadors that we're going to announce tonight. I'll name a few, and they'll be in attendance this evening. So Jamie Jury, many people would be aware of Jamie. Jamie's been recognised not only in Australia but right around the world as an environmentalist. His actual education and skill is in gardening, and he's done some amazing gardening projects and had a whole range of TV shows across the past few decades. So Jamie's coming on board, and we're really excited to have Jamie as part of the BYD family. We're also announcing Timo Marsh, who's a singer and actor. He'll actually be performing this evening, so he's performing some of his hits that he's had over the years, and also Tim's about to star in the new Tina Turner musical that's going to travel around Australia. I believe it's starting in Sydney. So fantastic to have Tim on board. He's extremely creative, and we've got some really exciting projects that we're working on with Tim. There's also Danica Mason. Danica Mason is from Channel 9, the TV channel. She reports on rugby league. She's one of our brand ambassadors, and she'll be attending tonight, and really looking to hear from Danica about her experience driving the BYD Atto 3, like the car that I'm sitting in at the moment, and she's got a wonderful view. And what I love about what Denica said about when we first gave over the car to her and she drove it for a week or two, she was talking about the zen of the car and how peaceful it is moving from petrol vehicle across to electric. So really excited to have Denica on board and to hear her story this evening. And then also excitingly, we're announcing Andrew Winter from Foxtel, who is headline stars shows like Love It or List It, and a few other shows on Foxtel. He's coming on board as one of our brand ambassadors and part of the family as well. So it's about engaging with the community, and we're fortunate to have a lot of high-profile people that want to be associated with the brand. As we announced and made public last year, Australia's legendary footballer Tim Cahill is also a brand ambassador, but more than that, he invested in the company as well. So we've got a great range of people that are part of our family, and tonight is also a celebration about that as well. So it's another great thing. And yeah, shame you can't be there, but for the people that will be in attendance, it's going to be a great evening, and looking forward to it.
Well, I'm sure you'll have more such events in the future. And with the last sort of year or so, it's been very hard to get cars in the country. I was just reading an article yesterday on news.com.au about how a lot of cars are sitting in multiple ships off the coast of Australia. It takes a long time to actually get them offloaded. And then I think they've got to put them through some sort of quarantine or something. And it's just causing huge delays. So I don't know if that's the same case for you, but how have sales been going over the last year as things have, opened up in that after the, mostly with the pandemic being over?
Yeah, it's actually a great question. Our sales have been extremely strong. So we're now positioned as the number 2 EV brand and company in Australia, and that's been achieved. We only commenced deliveries in late October. And really mainstream or main volume deliveries in November. And we've had extremely strong delivery numbers. But like everybody in the automotive industry, there is a major challenge going on, and that's a blockage at all of the ports right across the country. So we would have actually delivered in January, February, March, probably 3 times the number of vehicles that we could have delivered or that we have delivered. And that's unfortunate. There's a blockage. There's been a series of cars from a whole range of brands that have come into the country with some extra checking that needs to be done by quarantine services, and that's created a blockage like never been seen before in Australia. So there's actually around 60,000 cars that are either on port or held up in ships, and it's impacting the industry as a whole. We are also impacted. Fortunately, we're doing our best, and we're getting as many cars cleared through customs as possible. But at the moment, it is a pretty hot topic, and it's unfortunate that we can't get more of the cars that we've already sold to our customers more quickly. But we're not the only brand. Every brand in the country is affected very much the same.
Yeah, I think the article was saying that they can only get 9 cars out an hour or something. The port. So
Correct.
something definitely, some logjam there that needs some disruption by by somebody that can.
We're working on that as well, because we don't like to accept things as the norm, and this challenge that has come our way, that is an industry challenge, not us specific, but we look at things with a very different lens, and we've already started working on a very robust plan to future-proof our brand against any delays in the coming years. So it's very unfortunate, but we are looking at some very innovative new ways of bringing cars into the country and getting our great cars to our customers as quickly as we can.
Well, let's hope that
given the
one
demand,
day,
especially.
Well, let's hope that one day that includes local manufacturing. We still make trucks and things here in Australia, and I know you're not going to announce any secret plans today or whatever, but if that could be the case, it would be wonderful to see. So again, I'm not asking for any comments. It just came to my mind.
We'll never say never, and wherever possible, we fully support Australian manufacturing and Australian jobs. In fact, across the BYD network, we actually employ now close to 700 people. I should get that correct. And that's right across our retail stores, our logistics. So we're already a very large employer of people in Australia, And who knows, one day cars may be made again in Australia. Unfortunately, the reality and the cold reality is that the technology speed at which automotive industry is moving at and the transition to EVs doesn't really provide a economical model that stacks up for a large volume production of vehicles in Australia.
Yeah.
So it is what it is for the moment, but I'm an optimist, so let's never say never.
That's right. Now, in brief, because I know you've got to get going to the event tonight and other things you've got to do. But what's the short version of the BYD cars you have for sale? And of course, people can always go to 50 Ryler Street, Darling Coast, and see for themselves. But which models are available in Australia?
Great. So yeah, you can go straight on to bydautomotive.com.au. And you can put a deposit down online and put a reservation on a car today, so that we're a digital platform. So that the website again is bydautomotive.com.au. And we have the Atto 3, which is the model that I'm sitting in at the moment. Wonderful mid-size SUV. It's been recently awarded the best EV under $70,000 by the drive.com.au, which is part of the Channel 9 stable magazine and editorial. So that's a wonderful achievement for a brand new car into the country to be awarded, as I said, the best EV under $70,000. So that's the model that we have on the market at the moment. Retail varies from state to state depending on road cost, etc. But somewhere around the $52,000 to $53,000 mark, you can get the extended range Atto 3. And then around July this year, we'll be launching the second vehicle onto the market, which is called the Dolphin, which is a hatch, a slightly smaller vehicle than the Atto 3 that I'm sitting in at the moment. And then later on in the year, we'll be launching and delivering the Seal, as it's known overseas, which is a very sporty sedan type vehicle, and one that's been highly anticipated to arrive in Australia. And then going forward, one of the great things about BYD is that we will be launching at least 2 high quality models every year for the next 3 to 4 years that we've already locked in. So within a handful of months and years, we'll have a very large range of EVs, and that means more choice, more opportunities for people that are buying a car to explore electric vehicles and pick something that's in their price range and that's suitable for them.
Now, one of the other things people considering getting an electric car would be interested in finding out is what is the differences in costs between fully charging an electric car. And I realize there are different models with different size batteries. You mentioned extended range, but how does it, in general, compare between fully charging an electric car and fully filling the tank with petrol or diesel?
So it's a great question again, and Alex, just I'll go through this as quickly as I can, because it is a really important topic. Ultimately, with EVs, the best thing and really where utopia is the fact that you can see where I'm sitting, it's extremely sunny. Australia is blessed with a huge amount of sun. So the optimal outcome is to get direct sourced energy. So if I use my house as an example, I have solar on the roof. I have the ability to take that solar directly from my house into a charger and put that into the car. So that is free of charge. That's electricity that powers my car, and that is completely free of charge. Obviously, I had to pay for the solar panels to go on the roof, but they're extremely competitive these days and prices are coming down. But that is the ultimate way of charging your vehicle. Now, obviously, the sun doesn't shine at night, so there needs to be a whole range of other infrastructure pieces. And what the government and many other great companies has done is start to build out a very wide network of high-speed chargers, public infrastructure chargers right across the country. And you'll see more and more of that be deployed in the coming months and years as more EVs are on the road. And that ranges in price. Obviously, for a company like NRMA or Ampol, AmpCharge, these type of companies, to put in charging stations is quite expensive. So they do need to pass that on and pass a charge on to customers. But in all circumstances, the cost of electricity is far lower than what a petrol comparison would be. On average, when you break it down from the utopian position that I spoke about of free solar and straight into your car, right through to the most high cost, high speed charging, what you're seeing is around a third of what you'd be paying for petrol as an average as to what you'd be paying for electricity. So when you weigh that up and you look at what petrol is at the moment, $2 plus and substantially above $2 in some locations, the savings are considerable, and it goes a long way to making sure that the vehicles we have are not only at price parity, but with the BYD Atto 3, it's actually now cheaper to own and operate an electric vehicle than what it is a vehicle of the same price point in a traditional internal combustion engine vehicle. So we're already past that point of it being more cost effective to switch to electric. And as I mentioned, there's a whole range of infrastructure pieces going in right across the country. But as to summarize, around a third of your fuel cost if you switch to electric, if you a mixture of public charging and home charging, will be around a third.
And I met somebody who was telling me that they had imported a Nissan Leaf electric car from Japan because it was able to be plugged back into the house to operate as a battery, like a Powerwall, like a Telstra Powerwall, a Tesla Powerwall, or one of the LG ones, as an equivalent on wheels that you could drive around. And I'm just wondering, as I'm thinking about it, is that something you could do with a BYD car if you wanted to set up whatever you needed to do to have the electricity go back into the house in case of a blackout?
Yeah, so it's actually without boring you on all the technicalities and your viewers, but there's two technologies. There's what's called V2G and V2L. There's vehicle to load and vehicle to grid. Vehicle to grid is using your car to plug straight back into your meter and your actual main system of electricity. That technology is available in some cars. We could have it in the BYDs if we wish to, but the reality is homes right across Australia are not geared up for that on large scale at the moment. So in our view, it's better to keep the cost of our car down and not have that software and hardware piece in our vehicles at the moment. But what we do have is the V2L, which is vehicle to load. So where the charger is in this vehicle, we can actually plug in a normal cable, and then you can power any appliance or tool or barbecue, electric barbecue, whatever it may be. And that's a great asset for electric vehicles and what I've mentioned with the V2L. And it was never more evident than recently in New Zealand, where there was some major floods for people that are aware. It was extremely devastating. And one of the great things that we came out of the back of this, and it was something that I'd never even envisaged, but our wonderful partners in New Zealand actually sent a whole fleet of BYD Atto 3s into flood-ravaged areas, and they were powering the basics to assist those communities to keep clean water, clean electricity, warm water, and just the assist in these flood areas. And that V2L technology that I've mentioned, while we originally thought it's great for fun and adventure and going camping and using a car to power your campsite, that type of thing, when it really hit the road and in real world circumstances, the most powerful thing happened, and it was actually helping communities stay afloat whilst they're, pardon the pun there, but it stay in connection with electricity whilst they were being inundated with a huge amount of flooding and really a disaster in New Zealand. So that was a really heartwarming story. And something that was unexpected, but it really goes to show how technology is advancing and how technology is helping make a better environment, better community, creating cleaner air, and then all of the other environmental issues and benefits that can be achieved with having more electric vehicles on the road compared to polluting petrol or diesel vehicles.
Sure, absolutely. And yeah, that's very handy. I mean, I've got a battery from a brand called Signet. It's sort of, you got to hold it a bit like an old camp light, but inside it's got a big battery. You can plug 240-volt appliances in there. It does say don't plug in hair dryers or heaters. There's limitations. I mean, you probably wouldn't have those sort of limitations in a much bigger battery that's in the BYD cars. I wonder how many times a BYD car could recharge an iPhone. But probably thousands of times because it's only two or three times from those little portable batteries.
Well,
oh boy.
As we're speaking, I've actually got the car off and I'm charging my phone at the moment, and still got the air conditioning running. So
yeah,
it's as I said, the technology in electric vehicles, and what a lot of our customers really experience yes, it's great. It's fantastic to transition into a zero polluting vehicle. But the real enjoyment that we're getting most feedback about is the high level of technology and just the driver experience. That you drive around, it's completely silent. You've got great access to technology. As I mentioned, we've got the app now that's available, the BYD app on the phone, and then all of the wonderful technology that's inbuilt into the car, the 360 cameras, all of the safety features. It really is a new era of automotive transition that's happening around us, and it's happening far quicker than most people would realise. And I can only encourage people to have a look at electric vehicles if they're in the market, and have a look and see for yourself if it's suitable for your next car.
When did you first drive an electric car?
So as I mentioned, my relationship with BYD dated back 10 years ago. So I first drove an electric bus, actually, which was 10 years ago. And then my first electric car would have been around 2015. I had a small hand in what was going on in China, in Shenzhen, where in Shenzhen the whole city replaced about 40,000 taxis in the space of a month to remove all the old petrol vehicles off the road and replace them with electric vehicles. So during that period was the first time that I drove an electric car and a BYD car for that point.
So, look, I just want to finish on a couple of
Haven't
other personal questions. One, I always like to ask the people I'm speaking with, can you please share a memory of your first computer?
Yes, great great question. I've got Well, actually, I've got wonderful memories. My brothers, my older brothers, I recall having a Commodore 64 and being really into it, and doing some coding games. And so I've got wonderful memories as a child of my older brothers. So I shouldn't say elderly, they'll kill me, but my older brothers creating games, and I was the beneficiary of being able to play the games and not have to do all the coding. So I've got a great memories and childhood memories of Commodore 64.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, that's those were amazing times, and getting the magazines and typing it all in and learning it. Yeah, fond memories for a lot of
Yeah,
people. The young kids today don't know what how limited it was compared to the 3D virtual reality worlds that they enjoy today. It's quite incredible. My second last
it
question is
is.
to ask if you could please share some of the best advice you've ever received in life to help you get where you are today.
Another great question, Alex. I think the best piece of advice I've ever been given, and this is probably more on a business side of things. Obviously, I've had some great advice right through from my parents, my father, my mother, and many other great people that have been around. But one piece of advice that I was given once was know your own value as a person. So have confidence in yourself, and that is not just monetary value, but when you're in a room, when you're in an experience or with an interaction with another person, or you're doing something without people around, just know your own value and have confidence in what you can bring, and never sell yourself short. So I think that was probably the best piece of advice I've ever been given, and I've always been able to, in uncertain times, look internally and be confident to know my own value, know what I can offer in any circumstance, whether it be small or large, and that has served me well in business and in life more generally.
Great advice. We can all learn from that. And what is your final message to IT Wire viewers and readers, and to your current and future customers and partners?
I think the best advice I can give is that don't view electric vehicles as some crazy, weird, new thing that is here, or a fad. The reality is electric vehicles are still cars. One of the great things about the BYD Atto 3 is extremely easy to hop in, and this is why Six was so interested in our vehicle. It's the easiest car to hop in and transition from a normal petrol car driving electric car. So if you're looking at buying a new car, and this is not a sales pitch by any means, but really do your research, have a look around. Some wonderful electric cars on the market, both from BYD and some other wonderful brands that are here in Australia. have a look, because I think most of your viewers and listeners would find that the minute they start to look at electric, they'll realize it's not that big a transition as to what some people think, and it's a wonderful transition and a wonderful experience to move into an electric vehicle.
Well, Luke, clearly the electric force is with you. May that long continue. Luke Todd, CEO of EV Direct and Chairman of BYD Automotive, thank you so much for taking the time. I hope you have a wonderful gala event tonight, and I do hope we can speak again in the future.
Alex, it's been a privilege to be on your show, and look forward to talking again anytime.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.